Monday, April 28th, my country just blacked out. And this is how it affected everyone psychologically. If you want to know how it felt, go back in time and think about when COVID hit and we were told not to leave the house. Most of us can agree that part of us felt impotent because our freedom of movement had been constrained. Yet another part of us felt relieved because we had the freedom and the certainty that the news would deliver us what was going on. We had access to media, for instance, news, social media, TV, calls. We could message our friends, email your boss. We had the privilege to call our loved ones to make sure they were okay. Well, Monday was same feeling, opposite circumstances. Also, by no means am I comparing a 12-hour blackout with a full-on worldwide pandemic. Like, it has nothing to do. Like, let's just think about the lives that were lost. It has nothing to do, like, to compare. Also, I know that I'm talking from a privileged standpoint. Like in Spain, it was just 10 hours of panic, and it wasn't even that big of a deal panic-wise, and in a few minutes you'll learn why. My heart goes to the people and the countries that are actually suffering, and by no means am I trying to victimize my country, myself, or anything. I want to make something out of what happened, and I want to come here and tell everyone the psychological effects it had in people and the possibilities of psychological effects crises have on the human psyche. The feeling most of us had was impotence. We are extremely reliant on electricity and our devices. Most people rely on it for their education, home functioning, finance, even like memories. Like I couldn't even look at Google Photos. Everything is stored in the cloud, and I personally depend on electricity even to open up the door of my house. So we were left with nothing. And nobody knew what was going on. As I've said, we didn't have the reassurance we had in COVID to actually connect with other people through media. Hi babies, welcome back to another video. And as a psychology student today, I needed to analyze the situation and the effects that the blackout in my country had. Because yeah, at times of distress, everyone acts differently, and I started looking at everyone and everyone's reactions, and I want to show you also, I've been getting more comments and I've been getting more DMs, and I have to say thanks to everyone who's been supporting my content and all of that. I feel like super grateful. I don't think I could stress this enough. Just a quick reminder. My aim with this channel is to bring you guys more psychological tools so that we can strike conversations and better our lives. And also I want to give different points of views. I love playing devil's advocate, so make sure you stay tuned for the upcoming videos, and I post every week a video. I just feel so thankful that I'm deserving of your time, so yeah. Thank you so much, guys. You're amazing. I will start posting the scripts of the videos on Substack because I've been on that platform and I've consumed content there, and I just think that it would be a great way to actually, for you guys to, for instance, take a deeper look on my outlooks and stuff. And also I just love books and I love stuff and I write a lot, okay? One thing about me is I love to read and I love to write, so I just thought it would be a great idea to start posting articles there. So yeah, eventually, like sometimes, I'm not promising to be there all the time, but I'm promising you to see some of my content there. Without further ado, guys, let's get started with what happened. First, we're gonna talk about the triggers. When faced with a crisis, humans tend to act rather irrationally through our fight or flight system of response. But as always, in psychology, things are not black or white. We don't always act rationally or irrationally when it comes to facing crisis. What we do have is defense mechanisms, and for most of us, those are the flight or fight systems. Therefore, our behavior seems to be influenced by panic and uncertainty, something we would not normally do in our sensible moments. And that's when cognitive dissonance enters the room. There's a difference between what you know would be the sanest thing you could do and what you actually do. And cognitive dissonance is this gap. The fight or flight mode feels to come from an external force. So part of you feels betrayed when panic takes over your brain. But modifying your behavior to align with your values is not easy. I mean, if it were easy, cognitive dissonance wouldn't be a thing. It would require a lot of energy and discomfort. And let's be honest, we don't have the time for that. What's easier, it is to adjust our attitude towards the situation and change our perspective towards our actions. The solution is to keep justifying our irrational behavior with creative reasoning so that we can be at peace and shorten the distance between our attitudes and our behavior. To dismantle our cognitive dissonance and be sure of who we are. Because if there's something that our brain is just constantly seeking, is reassurance on who we are. What are the stages of a crisis? As always, at first, you don't believe it. I personally thought the blackout was only in my house at first, and then in the neighborhood, then in the city, and finally I found out it was a whole country thing. At first, negation was a predominant feeling. It's like, you know, the 7 stages of grief. The first one is not knowing, or like not knowing, but not assuming it's true. So negation. That's what happened to me, and I actually made a list of what was going on. And in times of crises, I'm someone creative and someone who needs to write down things so that I don't forget about them. So I opened my laptop, and then I figured out, no, I'm gonna lose the energy and I need to charge my phone. So I will charge my phone on my laptop, and then I will open the notebook, and then I will write. And I wrote, like, not gonna lie, that's a bit shameful, 10 pages of dystopia. Yeah, I thought the world was ending. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I was calmed and collected. I was freaking out on the inside. On the outside, I may have looked like, everything's chill, we'll go back to normal in a few hours, yeah, I'm sure. But on the inside, I was writing dystopian fiction. Maybe it's because all that dystopian fiction is affecting my brain, probably. But that was what happened to me personally. Also, the fact that I was reading Orwell doesn't actually help much. I wasn't the only one paranoid here, as a few individuals got paranoid too and stated that von der Leyen, yes, the head of the EU Commission, had said that it was a Russian attack and that we must act together. It was wild. It was wild. And others stressfully were lining up in the dark grocery store. Like, I remember going for a walk and seeing a huge line in the grocery store with and the grocery store was super dark. It looked so creepy. And I was thinking, that's so fucking embarrassing. Like, in my head, like The Handmaid's Tale, I was just thinking, no change ever happens like abruptly. It's everything gradual. People are accepting this, and then they will accept. I was, oh my god, what the fuck was going on with my head? I swear. At least I had the awareness to realize that I was being a bit delusional there. And then most people were buying batteries, lights, food, everything. They were like, the supermarkets and stores in general, like supply stores, were running out of everything, like in COVID. But especially I understand because people were alarmed because of the uncertainty. When we don't know what will happen, it's more likely that we're gonna freak out, and it's better to be safe than sorry. When you saw those situations, you would feel alarmed. And when people like my mom were stating those things about von der Leyen, you thought like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. They don't want me to know anything. They're stealing all the information I have. It's really stupid. And on the other hand, we had the most of Spain. Not to fall into stereotypes, but the rumors are true. Most of us were chilling in the sun. Even I was surprised to see a vast amount of people going on walks, talking to others, having drinks, and just living as if it were a normal April afternoon. And on the internet, many say that it was due to the lack of phones, and others say that it was due to the lack of work. And to that, I want to just ask a question to everyone. Don't you think that it's a bit of both? Like, does it necessarily have to be only one thing? I don't think so. Maybe it can be a bit of everything, because every factor alters the product. Of course, rumors were flying around and people were speculating about the blackout. But in general, I don't really give that much of a fuck mindset was a thing. Okay, but if people tend to freak out in crisis, why were most of Spaniards just calmed? Why did calm prevail in the midst of a blackout, in times of uncertainty and scarcity? Because honestly, I was the first one to be surprised. Like, even Erasmus students were like, just chilling. To that, I'll say it was because we couldn't do much else. It is true that as a society in Spain, we value social unity, laughing about, honestly, anything and everything, and just chilling. Like, yes, those are values that are really strong in our society. But we, of course, get stressed, and we, of course, try to react when there's a problem. Quick side note, on the flip side, this unseriousness of like Spaniards in general could lead to a lazy behavior, but in this case, it was actually a good thing. But most of us were much preoccupied about it, simply because we knew we had to trust the experts, and we weren't experts, so we couldn't do anything about it. And that is true. Like, of course, some people were stressed because they didn't trust the government, and some people were stressed, but as a majority, everyone was like, yeah, it will eventually get back. We cannot do anything about it. There are memes running on the internet of very Spanish, like, older men saying the only issue was that there wasn't cold beer. That's the most Spanish thing you could say, by the way, like, in the midst of a crisis. It was funny. It was really funny. Like, the best thing about the blackout were the memes. That's it. It was really beautiful. Like, I was talking with a friend of mine the day after the blackout, and he basically said like, yeah, I helped my neighbors. We filled like water tanks, and we did this and the other. And by we, he meant him and other random people. So yeah, it was cute to see us united, honestly. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to admit that our culture is far from perfect, but honestly, it felt surprisingly soothing to see people calmed, because as I've said, my initial reaction was freaking out, but then like an hour and a half into the blackout, I was so chill. It was surprising. Like, I surprised myself with my chillness, because especially in crises and uncertain moments, we tend to copy what others do, because that's should be the safest thing to do. That's when our social identity is at its highest, and that's what I want to stress about. Like, the Spanish social identity. We reacted in the way we did, not because that's how we are, but rather that's how we have been taught that we are. Depending on where you live, you have some values, some tools, some resources that will make you react in a way or another through crises. And Spain happened to act like this because as a culture, we've been teaching people to react like this. And by that, I don't mean like, yes, in Spain they teach you to not react to things like as if they were big of a deal and you just laugh about it and you ha ha ha. No, that's not what we do with all the problems. But as a general culture, yeah, we're a bit relaxed. Yeah, I've just figured it. I'd never been that aware of the Spanish social identity before, and it was interesting and rather like amusing to see everyone so like interconnected, because I think that in our daily basis we don't get to see social identities as much. So I would like to see the blackout happen in another country. I'm not implying that I want that for people, I don't, but it would be interesting to see how other countries would react based on their social identity. Let me stress that again, I don't want the blackout to happen to anyone, but I'm just saying, we can get a lot of information about it. Thank God that most of us had this calming personality when facing crises, because I know me, and if I had been surrounded by not so peaceful people, I would have panicked even more. I would have entered a rabbit hole of madness. Well, as I've said, I did it first, before going outside and getting infected by the calm of people. And here goes the thing, social identity, group settings. We are affected by the people around us. And it's amusing how levels of stress are highly affected by the people you have around. Let's just say you have a project and you're working with a group of people, and that group of people reacts terribly to whatever setback. They start screaming, fighting, and overall stressing. you're more likely to or either find resentment toward it or just feel bad. Because when I was at home with my mom and she was also panicking, we were both panicked. Once I got out of the house and I was infected by society, I realized that, hey, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a big of a deal. Like, honestly, it was a big deal, but yeah, the reaction wasn't that bad. Another quick side note, it was hilarious to see people trying to telepathically communicate with each other and arrange meetings without previous agreements via WhatsApp. Breaking the rules of society and heading to each other's places to ring the doorbell. I had never experienced something like that before, and it felt rather invasive. Like, I went to my friend's house and I rang the bell and I felt like a thief, not gonna lie. But in the end, we felt closer to each other, honestly. I'm gonna be honest, a part of me didn't want the blackout to end because I felt so, like, together with my family. And I'm not saying the sole reason why it was because there were no screens in between us. It just, the same happened when COVID hit. Whenever there's a crisis, you tend to just be more of a community. And so you feel more connected, you felt more like, I don't know. It was really good to spend some good quality time with my brother, for instance, and just being able to calm him down was, I don't know, it was amazing. It was really good. And the next morning, we woke up and everything was back to normal. It all seemed like a dream, a dystopia. But this time, it hadn't been fiction. Guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. It's a bit different than what I usually post, but I felt I needed to give my take on that. And I hope you enjoyed the video. As I've already said in the, how do you think it would have affected your society? And yeah, just hope you have a nice week, as I always say for some strange reason, and hoping you don't get a blackout.